Abraham accumulated more wealth than entire kingdoms. Genesis 13, verse 2, describes him as very rich in livestock, silver, and gold. He commanded 318 trained soldiers, negotiated with kings, and built an empire that lasted generations. Yet most people miss the real secret behind his prosperity. This wasn't luck or inheritance. Abraham followed 8 specific financial principles that transformed him from a wanderer into one of history's wealthiest men. These same principles still work today, and they're hiding in plain sight. Here's what churches won't tell you. For decades, religious leaders have preached that godliness means poverty, that wealth corrupts, that rich Christians are somehow less spiritual. But Abraham destroys that narrative completely. He walked so closely with God that Scripture calls him the friend of God. He was also staggeringly wealthy. The two weren't contradictory, they were connected. So how did he do it? What financial strategies allowed him to prosper while maintaining an unshakable relationship with the divine? Over the next few minutes, you'll discover the exact blueprint Abraham used to build generational wealth. These aren't motivational theories pulled from modern self-help books. These are battle-tested biblical principles that created one of history's greatest fortunes. Before we dive deeper, hit that subscribe button for biblical wealth and turn on notifications. You're about to see money through a completely different lens, and what comes next will challenge everything you thought you knew about prosperity and faith. Principle number 1, acknowledge the true source of every dollar. After Abraham defeated 4 kings and rescued his nephew Lot, the king of Sodom offered him all the war spoils. This was a fortune. Livestock, goods, treasures beyond measure, any reasonable person would have accepted. Abraham refused everything, not a thread, not a sandal strap, nothing. His exact words to the king reveal everything. I have lifted my hand to the Lord, God Most High, possessor of heaven and earth, that I would not take anything that is yours, lest you should say, I have made Abram rich. Think about what just happened. Abraham turned down massive wealth because accepting it would have given credit to a human benefactor instead of God. He understood something most people never grasp. Every blessing, every opportunity, every dollar that enters your life ultimately flows from one source. When you forget that, you become enslaved to whoever gave it to you. You start making decisions based on keeping people happy instead of following divine direction. This principle protects you from financial manipulation. When you recognize God as your provider, you can't be controlled by bosses, clients, or investors who dangle money as leverage. You can walk away from compromising deals. You can refuse unethical opportunities. You can say no to money that comes with strings attached. Abraham's wealth didn't happen because he played political games or kissed the right rings. It happened because he refused to let anyone else claim credit for what God provided. That mindset shift changes everything about how you pursue prosperity. Principle number 2, give first, calculate later. Genesis 14, verse 20 records the first mention of tithing in Scripture. After Abraham's military victory, a mysterious priest king named Melchizedek appeared. Abraham immediately gave him 10% of everything he'd recovered from battle, not 10% of what was left after expenses, not 10% of the profit, 10% off the top before calculating anything else. This wasn't required by law. Moses hadn't been born yet. The commandments didn't exist. No religious authority demanded it. Abraham gave voluntarily because he understood that giving activates something supernatural. The tithe isn't about God needing your money. He owns everything already. The tithe is about you declaring who you trust as your source. When you give God the first portion of your income, you're making a powerful statement. You're saying that your security doesn't rest in your bank account, your job, or your investment portfolio. You're saying you trust the provider more than the provision. Most people do this backwards. They budget God in after paying bills, after covering expenses, after setting aside savings. They give him whatever's left over at the end of the month. But Abraham gave first. He prioritized God before prioritizing himself. That positioning placed him under an open heaven where supernatural provision could flow. Malachi 3 verses 10 through 12 lays out the promise. Bring the full tithe and test God in this. See if he won't open the windows of heaven and pour out blessing until there's no room left. He'll rebuke the devourer for you, so unexpected disasters won't destroy your finances. Your car breaks down, but the repair costs half what you expected. You face a medical emergency, but insurance covers more than anticipated. You need money and an unexpected check arrives. That's divine protection activated by obedience. I know what you're thinking. You can barely cover expenses now. How can you afford to give away 10%? Here's the uncomfortable truth. You can't afford not to. Every time you prioritize your needs before honoring God, you operate outside his blessing system. You're trying to make it on your own strength instead of accessing supernatural provision. Abraham understood that giving first wasn't sacrifice, it was investment. It positioned him under God's favor. And the result? His wealth grew so abundantly that the land couldn't contain it. Principle number 3, measure wealth by impact, not accumulation. Abraham's true legacy wasn't the cattle, silver, and gold he stockpiled. Genesis 24 verse 35 lists his possessions: flocks, herds, silver, gold, servants, camels, donkeys. But that's not what made him significant. His real wealth was the generational blessing he became to all nations. That's the part most people miss completely. Throughout his journey, Abraham invested resources into infrastructure that benefited entire communities. He dug wells in the lands where he traveled. We know this because Genesis 26 mentions that after Abraham died, the Philistines filled in the wells he dug. Those wells provided water for families, livestock, and agriculture. They created value that lasted beyond his lifetime. This shifts the entire paradigm of prosperity. True wealth isn't what you keep, it's what you give and the lasting impact you create. You can accumulate millions in assets, but die having blessed no one. Or you can build systems, create opportunities, and invest in people in ways that multiply long after you're gone. The question isn't how much money is in your account. The question is how many lives are better because you existed. That's the metric Abraham used, and it's the metric that determines whether your wealth honors God or just inflates your ego. But here's where this gets really interesting. Abraham's generosity didn't just create impact, it actually multiplied his wealth in ways that pure accumulation never could. And the next principle reveals exactly how that works. Principle number 4, choose peace over profit every single time. Genesis 13 records a conflict that should sound familiar to anyone who's ever dealt with business partnerships or family money drama. Abraham and Lot had both become incredibly wealthy. Their combined flocks and herds were so massive that the land couldn't support both operations in the same area. Their herdsmen started fighting over grazing rights and water access. This wasn't a minor disagreement. This was the kind of dispute that destroys families and burns bridges permanently. Abraham had every right to pull rank. He was older. He was the patriarch. Cultural norms gave him first choice of territory. But instead of asserting his advantage, he did something that would make every negotiation expert cringe. He told Lot to choose first. Pick whichever land looks best, and I'll take whatever's left over. Lot surveyed the options and spotted the well-watered Jordan Valley, lush, fertile, perfect for raising livestock. Obviously, the superior choice, so naturally he claimed it for himself and left Abraham with what appeared to be second-rate territory. From a business standpoint, Abraham just lost the negotiation. He gave away premium real estate and got stuck with the scraps. Every financial advisor would tell you he made a terrible decision. But watch what happened immediately after Lot departed. God spoke to Abraham and said, "Lift up your eyes, look north, south, east, and west. All the land you see, I'm giving to you and your descendants forever." Abraham surrendered a small piece to preserve peace. God gave him everything in every direction as far as he could see. This principle demolishes conventional wisdom about wealth building. Most people think you have to fight for every dollar, grab every opportunity, and squeeze every advantage, or you'll end up broke. They burn relationships over business deals. They sacrifice integrity for profit margins. They destroy families over inheritance disputes. But Abraham proves the opposite. When you prioritize peace over profit, when you refuse to let money cost you relationships or integrity, God opens doors you could never force open yourself. He creates opportunities you could never manufacture through manipulation or aggression. Here's what this looks like practically. You're in a business partnership that's making good money, but your partner operates dishonestly and the stress is destroying your health. The peaceful decision is walking away even though it costs you financially in the short term. You have a chance to close a deal that would bring serious cash, but it requires compromising your integrity or damaging a relationship. The peaceful decision is saying no and trusting God for something better. You're in a legal dispute where you could fight and maybe win, but the battle would consume years and drain your emotional energy. The peaceful decision is settling and moving forward. Most people can't do this because they're controlled by fear of missing out. But Abraham trusted that God would take care of him regardless of which land he received. That trust was rewarded immediately. Stop fighting over every penny. Stop burning bridges for business. Stop sacrificing peace on the altar of profit. Choose peace and watch God multiply what you thought you lost. Now, here's where Abraham's story gets even more instructive. Principle number 5, protect your reputation like it's your most valuable asset. After Sarah died, Abraham needed a burial site. He approached a man named Ephron who owned a field with a cave that would work perfectly. Genesis 23 records the entire negotiation. Ephron publicly offered to give Abraham the field and cave for free. He said it in front of witnesses. Everyone expected Abraham to accept. Abraham refused. He insisted on paying full market price, 400 shekels of silver according to merchant weights. He paid publicly so everyone could see the transaction was legitimate. Why would Abraham pay for something offered freely? Because he understood that integrity is more valuable than savings. Reputation is more valuable than discounts. If Abraham had taken the field for free, people might later question whether the transaction was legitimate. They might claim he took advantage of Ephron's generosity. They might say the land wasn't really his. By paying full price publicly, Abraham eliminated any possibility of future disputes. He protected his reputation and established clear legal ownership. This principle is absolutely critical for building wealth that lasts. Every time you cut an ethical corner to save money, you damage your foundation. Every time you take advantage of someone's desperation or ignorance, you plant seeds of future trouble. Every time you cheat on a deal, hide income, or break your word, you create cracks that will eventually cause everything to collapse. Proverbs 11 verse 1 says, "Dishonest scales are an abomination to God, but a just weight is his delight." God sees every transaction. He knows every shortcut you take, and he either blesses or curses your finances based on your integrity. Pay your employees fairly and on time, even when cash flow is tight. Honor your contracts, even when they cost more than expected. Pay your taxes honestly, even when you could hide income. Pay your bills on time, even when you could delay and use the money elsewhere. Return money when you're accidentally given too much change. Refuse to exploit people's mistakes or ignorance. Keep your word even when circumstances change. If you want to support content like this that's transforming how believers think about money and faith, subscribe to Biblical Wealth right now and turn on notifications so you never miss these principles that could change your financial future forever. When people know you operate with complete integrity, they want to do business with you. They trust you with bigger opportunities. They recommend you to their networks. Your integrity becomes your greatest marketing tool. Abraham could have justified taking the free land, but he chose to pay because reputation and integrity are priceless. Once damaged, they're almost impossible to repair. If you want wealth that endures and honors God, build it on absolute integrity. Never cheat, never cut corners, never exploit others. Always pay what you owe. Always keep your word. Always deal honestly. That foundation cannot be shaken. Principle number 6, build strategic alliances with people who share your values. Genesis 14 introduces us to 3 men named Mamre, Eshcol, and Aner who were allied with Abraham. These weren't casual friendships. These were strategic partnerships built on mutual respect and shared values. When Abraham needed to rescue Lot from the kings who had kidnapped him, these allies went with him. Their combined forces of 318 trained men defeated 4 powerful kings and recovered everything that had been stolen. Abraham won that battle because he had strategic partnerships with capable people. Your network determines your net worth. You cannot build an empire in isolation. You need mentors who have been where you want to go. You need peers who can collaborate with you on projects bigger than what you could accomplish alone. You need advisors who can guide you through complex decisions. You need partners who complement your weaknesses and amplify your strengths. Abraham's alliances were not random connections. These men protected each other's interests. They supported each other's success. They showed up for each other in times of crisis. This is the model for biblical wealth building. Intentionally build relationships with people who are going where you want to go. But you cannot just take from these relationships. You have to add value. You have to be the kind of person others want to partner with. Abraham was not using these men for his own benefit. He was adding value to their lives as well. When you operate this way, when you build genuine relationships based on mutual support and shared values, opportunities start showing up that you could never create alone. The right partnership can multiply your impact by 10. The right mentor can save you years of mistakes. The right alliance can open doors you did not even know existed. But be careful who you align with. Not everyone who wants to connect with you should be in your inner circle. Abraham chose allies who shared his values and operated with integrity. He did not partner with just anyone for convenience or profit. Align yourself with people who fear God and operate ethically. Avoid partnerships with people who cut corners or compromise integrity. One bad alliance can destroy what took years to build. Principle number 7, combine faith with diligent work. Here's where people get confused about biblical prosperity. They think faith means sitting back and waiting for money to fall from heaven. Abraham destroys that misconception completely. He was a successful businessman and entrepreneur in the cattle industry. He owned massive herds of livestock and managed teams of herdsmen who worked under his direction. When Abraham and Lot separated, Lot chose the fertile Jordan Valley. Abraham got stuck with rougher, less desirable land. But Abraham's wealth kept growing anyway. Hard work turned difficult terrain into something productive. He didn't complain about getting the worst deal. He didn't blame his circumstances. He worked with what God gave him and made it flourish. Abraham consistently followed God's instructions and then put in the physical labor required to see results. The combination of obedience to divine leading and diligent work in practical matters created conditions for sustained prosperity. Faith without action leads to poverty. Work without faith leads to anxiety and burnout. Abraham balanced both perfectly. You cannot pray for financial breakthrough while refusing to show up and do the work. God provides the opportunities, but you have to execute. He opens doors, but you have to walk through them. He gives you resources, but you have to manage them wisely. Abraham received livestock from Pharaoh and Abimelech, but he also engaged in commercial transactions that accumulated silver and gold. Divine blessing and human responsibility work together. That's the model for biblical prosperity. Stop waiting for a miracle to drop wealth in your lap. Start working diligently with what's already in your hands. Manage your current job excellently. Serve your clients with integrity, build your skills, expand your knowledge, take calculated risks. God will multiply your faithful efforts in ways you cannot predict. Principle number 8, use wealth to fulfill God's purposes, not just your desires. This is the principle that separates lasting legacy from temporary success. Abraham's wealth was never meant to be an end in itself. It was a tool to fulfill divine purposes. Genesis 12 verses 2 through 3 records God's promise to Abraham. I will bless you and make your name great, and you shall be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and the one who curses you, I will curse. The promise wasn't just, I will bless you. The promise was, I will bless you so that you will be a blessing. Abraham's prosperity had a mission attached. He was blessed to become a conduit of blessing to others. His wealth funded God's purposes on earth. Abraham maintained a military force of 318 trained men. That required significant resources. He used that force to rescue Lot and defeat oppressive kings. He dug wells that provided water for entire communities. He practiced hospitality on a massive scale, feeding travelers and strangers. He gave tithes and offerings that supported God's representatives like Melchizedek. Every dollar that flows into your life comes with divine assignment. You're not blessed just to upgrade your lifestyle, accumulate possessions, and retire comfortably. You're blessed to participate in God's mission of redeeming and restoring the world. When you understand this, money stops being about you. It becomes about kingdom impact. Your business becomes a platform for ministry. Your income becomes a tool for transformation. Your investments become seeds planted for eternal purposes. Abraham's wealth lasted because it was rooted in covenant, blessing, obedience, and mission. These 8 principles form a complete financial blueprint that works across cultures and centuries. Acknowledge God as your source. Give first before calculating. Measure wealth by impact, not accumulation. Choose peace over profit. Protect your reputation through integrity. Build strategic alliances with the right people. Combine faith with diligent work. Use wealth to fulfill God's purposes. These principles transformed a wanderer into one of history's wealthiest men. They positioned Abraham to receive supernatural provision, divine protection, and generational blessing. The same principles are available to you right now. The question is whether you'll actually apply them. Most people will watch this, feel inspired for a moment, then go right back to their old financial habits. They'll keep fighting for every dollar, cutting ethical corners, prioritizing profit over peace, and wondering why blessing never comes. But you don't have to be most people. You can start implementing these principles today and position yourself under the same open heaven that covered Abraham. Your financial future doesn't depend on luck, timing, or circumstances. It depends on whether you'll follow the proven blueprint that's been working for 4,000 years.